Florida fans that are panicking after year one of the Billy Napier era need to calm down a little bit, okay? I realize that the Gators struggled down the stretch, including a loss to Vanderbilt, which isn't acceptable. But with what Napier inherited from a roster depth and culture standpoint, this isn't a death sentence for his tenure at Florida. Right now, his recruiting class ranks in the top 10 according to On3, and we know how dangerous the transfer portal is. And all it takes is a positive spark to start a run like a place in Gainesville. We've seen it before. Now, while we live in an era of instant gratification, to quote J.G. Wentworth, I want my money and I want it now, it takes a little time to mold a program into what you want it to be. Now, Napier understands the type of player and structure it takes to win in this league. He got the blueprint from the Dark Lord Nick Saban. Now, we've seen great coaches struggle in their first year because that's more natural than not. Believe it or not, coming in and balling in your first year is actually the anomaly. Now, he will get guys that will play with extreme effort, not like we saw in the bowl game, as he preaches discipline and implements his system. Billy Napier will win at Florida. Let me say that again. Billy Napier will win at Florida. All he needs is a little time and a little breathing room. And everybody that's acting like Jodie Foster needs to go to their panic room and chill out for a little bit. I'm going to bring in my co-host, David Cohn, 6'7", former Michigan quarterback, current NFL free agent. My brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, a dashing mustache, and also pretty cool tattoos on his wrist.
Think about getting a couple more.
No, I don't think you should.
I'm totally doing it.
No, I don't think you should.
For sure.
Maybe you should get a face
No
tat.
stopping me, Dad.
Maybe you should get a face tat.
I already got one.
Oh, that's right.
That's my face.
That's right. But guys, we saw how bad Florida looked against Oregon State. And we understand no AR-15. We know what happened to Kitna. No Ventrell Miller. No Osiris Torrance, who I think is the best offensive lineman in the whole draft. The dude didn't give up a quarterback hit or sack in over 3,000 snaps. I don't know what else you can possibly do on the offensive line. I understand the frustration. I understand you're looking at Georgia right now, and they're at the peak of where they've been in a long time. Could go back-to-back national championships. But I think the panic over Billy Napier needs to kind of be tampered down a little bit. We've seen coaches, and it's not like, it's one thing if you go to a place and you inherited a great situation. Maybe that coach went to the NFL or that coach took another big-time job but left the program in a great spot. Dan Mullen did not leave the Florida program in a great spot. Now, they had some players. They didn't have the depth that you need to compete in the current state of the SEC, and the culture at Florida was bad. It's harder to get the culture right than it is to get players in there. And really, when you look at it at the end of the day, getting the type players you want in there to build that culture goes into that. So I don't think it's time to panic. Now, if we're sitting here next year and they're 5-7 and they look disheveled and you're not seeing effort and things like that, then we'll have another conversation. But to freak out after year one, to me, is just too much, David.
Billy Napier is a great football coach, and I do think that the University of Florida is a place where you can win, and you can win quickly, especially given the status of the transfer portal and all those sorts of things. Think about this, though. Every coach since Urban Meyer at the University of Florida has had a 10-win season. Urban won 13 games 3 different times, and the last 2 coaches, with Dan Mullen and Jim McElwain, won double digits in their first season there. Now, I do agree with you that clearly Dan Mullen, who also had a losing record last season, did not leave the roster in a great spot for Billy Napier to come in and win right away. But with a talented quarterback like Anthony Richardson, and look, it's still the University of Florida, I think that expecting a winning season this first year was certainly within the realm of possibility. And Florida fans have a right to be disappointed, I think, especially after the way this bowl game played out. But if the term we're trying to use here is panic, then certainly not. You know, even you saying if they're 5-7 next season at this point, obviously that would be bad too, in which case you probably still get a third year. Right?
You would think, even though that it seems like the cycle sped up. Yeah, I don't want what I'm saying to be misconstrued as don't be disappointed. It's fine to be disappointed. But, I mean, you have GoFundMes that are starting to try and get this guy fired. And every fan base has that group that is a little bit over the top or eccentric. I mean, hell, fan is short for fanatical. I mean, that we know that. But I think Billy is the right guy at Florida. And I know you look at Florida State and Mike Norvell. You look at UCF going to the Big 12. You look at USF. It's going to be interesting to see how they do with Golish. Miami, Mario Cristobal. They're getting the linemen in there and they're recruiting at a high level. I think throwing Billy overboard after year one and creating a lot of negative momentum, because we live in the age of social media and the internet and everything gets published out there. And these recruits see this and it's a true momentum thing. I'm just telling Florida fans, just calm down a little bit. I understand you're upset, but to try and get rid of Billy Napier now, you are doing nothing but listening to the fringe of the fringe when it comes to fans or people that really care about the school, Blaine.
Should you panic if you're a Florida fan? No, I don't think so. Fully panic like the Titanic's going down? No, but should there be a little bit of worry in there? I think so. The one thing you should feel good about, you are a top 10 class in recruiting. If anything, you can only do what you can your first year, but you lose to Vandy in that way. Locker room problems, effort problems. Then you go to the bowl game, get demolished. All right, AR-15, who in my opinion, I think probably should have came back to another year. He could have been one of the front runners for the Heisman. He goes to the draft. Now you have the backup quarterback situation with happened with Kitna. Who's going to play your quarterback next year? So there's a little worry that should be in there. I think Billy will win. I don't think he'll win anything big. The biggest thing for Florida you should be worried about is Miami and Florida State. Florida State is going to be a problem. All right, Miami, top 3 class, I believe, in recruiting. Yep. Mario's get it done. Monsters are building around you as we speak. Keep recruiting, but Billy, you have to win the games. Some games that you're not supposed to win. Kind of like Utah this year. All right, that's a big win. Not supposed to win that game. Utah's a great team. But the one thing that scares me is that bowl game, they looked bad on all 3 phases.
Yeah, and they were missing a lot of players. It's hard for me. It's hard. The effort is one thing. You look at some of the plays in that game from Florida, the effort was atrocious. That would be the thing that kind of would be the seed in my mind that would create the most doubt. Not looking at the record, not the loss to Vanderbilt. Again, this team and this roster will look much different next year, will look much different 2 years down the road, and we'll see, but I don't think it's time to panic right now. Hey, YouTube, what's up? You know the best present you can give us? Hitting that subscribe button. Because if you don't, I'm calling Santa, and your kids are getting nothing.